The alien marketplace was alive with noise and color. Stalls shone with metals, strange fruits and glowing crystals. Traders shouted in deep voices, and buyers argued over prices. Ships landed and lifted off in the distance, shaking the ground, as smoke rose into the skies. Among the laughter and bargaining, one sound stood apart, the rough chains of a human prisoner. Daniel Hale stumbled as the guards pushed him forward. His feet were bare, cut from the hot stones. His clothes were torn and his face carried both scars and exhaustion. He did not beg, nor did he cry. He walked with his head high even though he knew what was waiting for him. To the aliens, he was not Daniel Hale, soldier of Earth. He was Lot 49, just another rare creature to be sold to the highest bidder. The guards pulled him onto a raised platform. Around him, a circle of aliens gathered. Some had scales that shimmered under the sun. Others had fur and glowing eyes. A few wore robes and rings. Their wealth shone on every finger. They leaned forward, whispering to each other. Too thin. Not strong enough. Humans burn out fast. The auctioneer, a tall insectoid with clicking mandibles, raised its voice. A true human male. Scarred but still alive. A chance to own a relic of the Terran War. Who will begin the bidding? A heavy silence followed. Daniel's jaw tightened. He hated being displayed like an animal. He hated how they stared at him like he was a tool or a toy. But he refused to look down. If this was to be his end, he would face it with pride. Finally, a hulking alien with red skin raised one claw. 50 talons, it growled. The auctioneer's mandibles clicked. 50 talons. Do I hear 60? Another voice called out. 65. Daniel's eyes shifted. The new bidder was a lean, snake-like alien with jeweled fangs. It looked at him with hunger, as if imagining how long a human could last in its pits. 70, said another. The price slowly climbed. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had heard stories from other captured humans. Some ended up in fighting, arenas, others in cruel experiments. He wondered what fate waited for him now. Then, as the bidding reached 90, a tall figure stepped forward. The crowd parted at once. She was not like the others. Her robes were silk, woven with silver and deep green threads. Jewels sparkled across her arms, but it was not the wealth that caught Daniel's eyes. It was her face. Her features were sharp yet calm, her eyes bright with intelligence. She walked with quiet authority, as if every step had purpose. Lady. Scifi Vera. Her voice was clear and strong. 150. The crowd gasped. The auctioneer froze for a moment, then clicked excitedly. 150. A bold offer from Lady Vera. The other bidders hesitated. None wished to challenge her openly. Still, the red-skinned brute snarled. 160. Solari's eyes narrowed. 200. The whispering grew, louder. 200 talons was far too high for a worn human. The brute hesitated, then lowered his claw. The auctioneer's mandibles clacked in delight. 200 talons? Going once, going twice, sold. The guards yanked Daniel's chain, dragging him toward her. He braced himself, ready for mockery, ready for cruelty. But instead, Scifi raised a hand. Don't hurt him, she said firmly. I'll buy him. I see a man worth saving. The words struck Daniel harder than the chains. He stared at her, unsure if he had heard right. A man worth saving? No alien had ever spoken of humans that way. The guards bowed quickly, releasing the chain into her hands. Scifi studied Daniel closely. His face was dirty, his body weak, but his eyes burned, with quiet fire. That fire was what she had seen from the crowd. That was why she had spoken. The crowd murmured as she turned, leading him away. She wastes her money. Humans are nothing. She is mad. Scifi ignored them. Her long steps carried her past the stalls and ships toward her waiting transport. Daniel followed, his chain still attached but held loosely in her hand. He could have run, yet something made him stay. Inside the transport, the noise of the market faded. The door sealed with a hiss. Solari sat across from him, her eyes calm. "You are Daniel Hale, aren't you?" she asked. His eyes widened. How do you know my name?" "I study history," she replied. "I read the records of the war. I know some of the human soldiers who fought on Earth. Your name was there." Daniel's throat tightened. Memories flashed. The smoke of battle, the cries of his squad, the burning skies of Earth. He looked away. "That was a long time ago." Solari leaned forward slightly. "And yet you survived. That is not nothing." Daniel laughed bitterly. "Survived? You call this surviving?" He rattled his chains. "A prisoner on display? A trophy?" Her voice softened. "No, not a trophy. Not to me." For the first time in years, Daniel felt something strange. It was not trust, not yet. But it was enough to silence his anger for a moment. He studied her face, searching for deception. Instead, he found sincerity. The transport rose into the air, leaving the market far behind. Daniel did not know where she was taking him or why she had chosen him. All he knew was that for the first time in a long while, someone had seen him as more than a slave, and that thought stayed with him long after the city lights faded below. The transport hummed quietly as it rose above the city. Outside, the alien marketplace shrank into a blur of colors and shapes. Inside, the cabin smelled faintly of polished metal and herbs, an unusual combination for Daniel, who had been confined in cramped, dirty cells for months. Lady Solari Vera did not speak for several minutes, watching him carefully as he stared out the window. Daniel had learned long ago not to trust kindness, yet something in her calm presence made him hesitant to speak. Finally, she broke the silence. "I know you are wondering why I bought you," she said softly. Her voice carried neither arrogance nor fear, only certainty. Daniel stayed silent, his hands folded awkwardly in his lap. The chains had been removed, but the memory of their cold weight lingered. "I could have bought any human," Solari continued, "but I chose you." Daniel's eyes snapped toward her. "Why me?" "I am weak, scarred, useless." Solari's gaze did not waver. "I do not see what others see. I see strength. You survived battles no one thought you could. You endured things that would have broken most." Daniel scoffed, bitterness rising. "Survived? This is not survival. Look at me. I am nothing now. I am a prisoner, a spectacle for aliens to laugh at." She shook her head slightly. "No, you are human. That is something my people cannot understand." Daniel frowned. "Humans? What do you mean?" Solari leaned forward, her long fingers resting lightly on her knees. "Your species fights not only with strength, but with heart and mind. You adapt, you endure, you do not surrender. I have seen your history, Daniel Hale. Even when your world was lost, your people never stopped trying. That is worth more than wealth or armies." Daniel swallowed hard. No alien had ever spoken to him this way. To them, humans were curiosities or failures, nothing more. Yet here, in this strange transport, Solari treated him with dignity. Felt strange, almost uncomfortable, but also powerful. "You think I survived?" he asked quietly. "No. I ran. I hid. I watched others die." "How is that strength?" Solari's eyes softened. "Strength is not only in victory. Sometimes it is in surviving when all odds are against you. Sometimes it is in holding on to hope, even when it seems foolish. That is why I see a man worth saving." Daniel shook his head. "I don't know if I can be saved." "You will," Solari replied with quiet certainty. "But first you must trust me." Trust was a word Daniel had not felt for years, yet something in her voice stirred a faint spark inside him. He nodded slowly, not sure if he believed it, but willing to try. The transport landed in a city far different from the chaotic market world. Tall spires of smooth metal reflected the sunlight, and bridges stretched between buildings like silver threads. Hovering vehicles passed silently, along the roads below. Daniel had seen many alien cities in his time, but this one felt peaceful. Scifi led him through wide halls lined with soft lights and plants that hummed with gentle energy. Servants and guards bowed respectfully as they passed, but none spoke. It was as if the whole place recognized that Daniel's presence was not ordinary. "This is my home," Scifi said as they entered a large room with a balcony overlooking the city. "Here you will be safe. Here you can begin to heal." Daniel looked around cautiously. The room was spacious and simple, with a few chairs, a low table, and walls of pale stone. A soft breeze carried the scent of flowers from the balcony. He had spent months in cages in dark cells and never imagined a place like this could exist. "I don't belong here," he muttered. "You belong wherever you are willing to fight to live," Scifi said. She motioned for him to sit. "Rest for now. Tomorrow we will talk more." Daniel sat stiffly, unsure how to react. He had survived battles, imprisonment, and cruelty, yet this simple kindness unsettled him. He had forgotten what it felt like to be treated as a person rather than property. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Scifi returned with a tray of food. The scent alone made Daniel's stomach tighten with hunger. He had not eaten properly for days. She placed the tray before him without a word, but her eyes held a quiet patience. "Eat," she said simply. He hesitated but eventually picked up the food, tasting the warmth and richness for the first time in weeks. As he ate, he glanced at her. "Why do you care so much about a human?" Scifi studied him, her expression calm but serious. "Because humans are remarkable, and because you, Daniel Hale, are remarkable. You survived." The morning light poured into the room, soft and golden. Daniel woke slowly, the warmth of the sun a sharp contrast to the cold cells he had known. He felt stiff but alive, and for the first time in months, he did not feel the crushing weight of despair. Scifi entered quietly, carrying a small device that projected soft blue light. "Good morning," she said. "I have arranged a place for you to learn about my world and for me to learn about yours." Daniel frowned. "Learn about my world? There is nothing to learn. Earth is gone. Humanity is finished." Scifi shook her head. "Not finished. Never finished. You survived. That is enough to prove that humans are extraordinary." He turned away, unwilling to reveal the thoughts that stirred in him. Memories of smoke and fire, the screams of friends, and the ruins of cities crowded his mind. He had buried those memories, pretending they no longer existed. But here, with Scifi's presence, the past seemed to demand attention. "I want to see it," he said quietly, finally. "The records, all of it." Scifi gestured to the device. Images flickered to life. Humans fighting on alien worlds, spaceships burning, cities crumbling under the weight of war. Daniel watched silently, each image a reminder of the life he had fought to protect. "My people always underestimated humans," he said finally. "We were never seen as a threat, and yet we held on. We fought, even when defeat seemed certain." Scifi listened, fascinated. "And you did not stop. Even when all hope was gone, you found ways to survive. That is the spark I saw in you." Daniel's voice shook. "Do you know what it is like to lose everything? Friends, home, your world? To keep living when nothing is left?" Scifi's eyes were steady. "I cannot fully know your pain, but I can respect it. And I can choose to honor it. That is why you are here, Daniel. Not as property, not as a curiosity, but as a survivor." He looked at her, the anger and bitterness still present, but tempered by something new. A fragile trust. "Why me? Why not another human?" "Because I see something in you that even your people may not have recognized," Scifi said. "You carry the will to fight, to think, to create. That is rare. That is precious." Daniel's mind wandered back to his comrades, those who had fallen beside him. He remembered their courage, their laughter even in the darkest times. He remembered the weight of command, the decisions that had haunted him for years. And for the first time he realized that surviving was not weakness. Surviving was strength. He took a deep breath. I don't know if I can live up to that. You already have, Solari said simply. And now, you have a chance to do more. Not just for yourself, but for others like you. Humanity deserves a future, Daniel. And so do you. Daniel closed his eyes, the memories of war pressing against him, but her words like a shield. For the first time, he felt a purpose beyond mere survival. He wanted to prove her right. Tell me about your world, he said finally. If I am to live here, I must understand it. Solari smiled. Then let us begin. My people value knowledge, strategy, and art. We have conquered many worlds, but we have also lost much along the way. You may teach me as much as I teach you. As the day passed, Daniel shared stories of Earth, its oceans, its mountains, its cities. He spoke of the wars, the victories, and the losses. Solari listened intently, asking questions, absorbing every detail. She marveled at human creativity, at the ability to adapt and endure. And Daniel, for the first time, saw someone who truly believed in him. Not pitying, not curious, but believing. By evening, the two of them stood on the balcony, looking out at the city below. The sun dipped behind towering spires, casting long shadows across the streets. Do you think humans are really worth saving? Daniel asked quietly. Solari's gaze met his. I do. You are living proof, and I will not abandon you. Not now, not ever. A quiet understanding passed between them. Daniel realized that Solari's wealth, power, and influence were not what made her different. It was her choice. She had chosen to see value where others saw nothing. She had chosen to save a man deemed useless, and in that choice Daniel found a spark of hope. Fragile, but real. The night fell softly over the city. Stars emerged, twinkling faintly in the alien sky. Daniel lay down, letting the memories of the past wash over him. For the first time in years, he felt the possibility of a future, not one of fear or survival, but of meaning. Solari's voice echoed in his mind. I see a man worth saving. And for the first time, Daniel truly began to believe it. Days passed in a quiet rhythm that Daniel had almost forgotten existed. Each morning, he trained with Solari's instructors, learning not only to move his body but also to sharpen his mind. He practiced strategy games, simulations of battles, and alien combat techniques. Though he was weaker than many of the aliens, his quick thinking and creativity often gave him the edge. Solari watched him with careful attention, impressed by his determination. You think too little of yourself, she said one evening, as they overlooked the city from her balcony. Even in weakness, you find ways to survive and to act. Daniel shook his head, looking down at the streets far below. I've survived only because I had no choice. If I fail, if I make one mistake, I die. That is all I've ever known. Then, use that, Solari replied. You understand pressure better than anyone here. That is why you are valuable. Daniel wanted to argue, but he could not. Solari was right. He had survived against impossible odds. That survival had honed his mind, sharpened his instincts. Perhaps that was why she had chosen him, but not everyone was pleased with her choice. Rumors had begun to spread among Solari's peers. Some whispered that the noblewoman had grown weak in judgment, wasting her fortune and influence on a human. Others said she had fallen in love with a curiosity, a creature that should not even exist outside a cage. One evening, as the twin suns set behind the distant mountains, Solari summoned Daniel to the council chamber, a place where disputes were settled and decrees made. The room was vast, with tall columns and intricate mosaics that reflected the light like liquid silver. You are coming with me, Solari said. You need to understand the world you have entered. Daniel's heart sank. He had hoped for quiet days, for the chance to recover, but he nodded, sensing that confrontation was inevitable. Inside the chamber, her rivals awaited. They sat in high chairs, adorned with insignia of rank and power. Their eyes glinted with challenge as they looked at Daniel, a human standing among them. "Solari," one of them said, a sharp-tongued alien with silver scales. "We hear you have purchased a human. Are you serious? Do you realize the embarrassment this brings to your house?" Solari's gaze was steady. "I am serious. He is not property. He is not a burden. He is a man worth saving." Laughter echoed across the chamber. "Worth saving?" Another rival sneered. "This creature is weak, broken, and unfit to exist outside a cage. You risk everything for him?" Daniel felt a surge of anger, but he kept silent. He did not need to prove himself with words. Soon he would prove himself in action. The council demanded that he be handed over immediately. "He is a liability, a threat to our status. Give him to us or face consequences," the silver-scaled alien said. Solari stood tall. "He will not be handed over. He is under my protection." The chamber erupted in shouts and threats. Guards moved forward, tension rising with every heartbeat. Daniel's training and instincts kicked in. He surveyed the room quickly, noting exits, guards' positions, and potential allies. When a group of thugs advanced, aiming to seize him by force, Daniel did not hesitate. Using swift, calculated movements, he dodged and blocked their attacks, turning their own momentum against them. Though smaller and weaker, his mind worked faster than theirs, predicting every step. Solari's eyes widened as she watched him move. He was not just surviving, he was controlling the situation. The humans she had studied were always underestimated, and here Daniel was proving her right. The thugs, frustrated by their failure, retreated, leaving the chamber tense and silent. The rivals' sneers faltered as they realized that Daniel was not the helpless creature they assumed. "You see now," Solari said quietly, turning to Daniel. "Even your enemies cannot ignore your strength." Daniel's chest heaved. He had not felt fear this sharp in years, nor had he felt the exhilaration of acting decisively to save someone else. He looked at Solari, who met his gaze with calm assurance. "The council will not give up so easily," she continued. "They will try again, and they may come with more force." Daniel nodded. "Then we will be ready. I will not let them hurt you. Not after all you've done for me." Solari smiled faintly. "And I will not let them destroy what is worth protecting. Together we will face whatever comes." As they left the chamber, Daniel noticed the way the city seemed different. He no longer saw it as a place where he was an outsider. He saw it as a place where he could act, where he could fight, where he could matter. That night he trained harder than ever, using every technique Solari's instructors had taught him. He practiced strategy, agility, and reflexes, preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. He felt a new kind of purpose, not just to survive, but to protect, to prove his worth, and to honor the faith Solari had placed in him. Solari, watching from the balcony, felt a rare sense of hope. Daniel's courage and cleverness reminded her why she had chosen to save him. He was not just a human. He was a spark of something greater, something that might change the perception of his entire species. The city outside slept. The air in the city was tense. Rumors of Daniel's presence spread through the streets like wildfire. The council, humiliated by their failure in the chamber, was determined to reclaim what they believed belonged to them. Solari knew the threat was growing. She gathered Daniel in her private study, walls lined with books, maps, and artifacts from across the galaxy. The room was quiet, but the weight of what they faced pressed down on them. "They will come again," Solari said. Her eyes were serious, unwavering. "And next time they may not give you the chance to defend yourself. You must decide what you are willing to do." Daniel, sitting stiffly in a chair, met her gaze. "I am willing," he said quietly. "But what choice do I have? If I stay, they will try to take me. If I leave you open to danger." Solari shook her head. "You misunderstand. The choice is not only yours, I have made mine. I will not surrender you to them. Not now, not ever. But you must be ready for the consequences. Daniel felt a surge of conflicting emotions. Fear, gratitude, and determination intertwined. He had spent so long hiding from the world, running from danger, that the idea of choosing to fight for something greater was almost foreign. Yet, something inside him stirred. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Scifi stepped closer. "Stand with me. Show them that you are not a weak, broken human. Show them that your survival, your very existence, is something worth protecting." Daniel clenched his fists. Memories of the marketplace, of chains, of being treated as less than nothing, burned inside him. He realized that he was no longer just fighting for himself. He was fighting for dignity, for trust, and for the belief Scifi had placed in him. The council's emissaries arrived that evening, their ships casting long shadows over the city. They demanded an audience, hoping to intimidate and reclaim Daniel, without violence. But Scifi refused. "You will not take him," she said firmly. "He is under my protection." The lead emissary, a tall alien with copper-colored skin, sneered. "Your defiance brings dishonor. We will act if you continue to resist." Daniel stepped forward. His voice, steady and strong, carried across the hall. "I am Daniel Hale. I have survived worse than your threats. I will not be taken. I will not be treated as less than I am." Scifi's eyes glimmered with pride. For the first time she saw him not as a human to save, but as an equal, a partner in defiance. The emissaries hesitated, shocked by the human's confidence. They had expected fear, submission, or weakness. Instead, they faced determination and courage. "You may threaten me," Daniel continued, "but you will not break me, and you will not harm her." A tense silence filled the room. The emissaries exchanged glances, uncertainty in their eyes. They had underestimated Daniel and overestimated their influence. Scifi placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "Together," she said softly. "We face this together." The emissaries, realizing their intimidation had failed, retreated for now. But the danger had not passed. They would return, stronger and more determined. Daniel knew that the choice before him was clear. He could run, hide, and survive another day, or he could stand, fight, and prove that humans were not to be underestimated. That night, Daniel trained relentlessly. He practiced tactics, memorized escape routes, and studied Scifi's maps. Every move he learned, every strategy he practiced was a preparation for the battle to come. He felt alive in a way he had not felt for years. The fear and despair that had weighed on him were slowly replaced by purpose and resolve. Scifi watched him from the balcony, the wind carrying the faint scent of the city below. She understood that the human before her was changing. He was no longer the broken man from the marketplace. He was becoming something greater, a protector, a strategist, a survivor who would not bow to fear. "You are ready," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. Daniel paused in his exercises, sweat on his brow, and looked up at her. "I will not fail," he said. His voice was firm, carrying the weight of conviction, "for you, for humanity, and for myself." Scifi nodded. "Then we make our choice together. We will not surrender. We will face them, and we will show them what it means to challenge a human." The city slept under the glow of twin moons, unaware of the storm brewing above. In the quiet moments before dawn, Daniel and Scifi prepared themselves, not just for a battle of force, but for a battle of will, courage, and trust. Daniel's mind wandered briefly to Earth, to the battles he had fought, to the comrades he had lost. He realized that all those experiences had led him here to this moment. Every scar, every loss, every challenge had shaped him into someone who could make a difference. He looked at Scifi, her calm presence a reminder of why he was fighting. She had seen him when no one else did. She had believed in him when others had abandoned hope. And now he would honor that belief by standing strong. The first light of dawn broke over the horizon. Daniel and Scifi stood side by side on the balcony, looking toward the city, toward the council, and toward the uncertain future. They were ready. No matter the cost, Daniel had made his choice. He would fight. He would protect. He would prove that a human, once thought weak, broken, and insignificant, was a force worth saving. And as the sun rose, casting golden light across the city, Daniel felt something he had not felt in years. Hope, clear and unshakable, burning brighter than any fear. The city was quiet before dawn, but Daniel could feel the tension in the air. He and Scifi had spent the night preparing for the council's next move. Maps were spread across the table, escape routes memorized, and strategies discussed in every detail. "This is it," Scifi said softly. "They will come soon, and we must be ready." Daniel nodded, his hands steady despite the adrenaline racing through him. He had trained, planned, and faced fear before. But this was different. This was not only about survival. It was about proving that humans were more than what others believed. The first signs of the council's assault appeared as the sun rose. Ships descended from the sky, casting long shadows over the city. Alarms sounded, sending waves of workers and residents into safe areas. But Daniel and Scifi were not moving to hide. "Stay close," Scifi said. "And remember, think, react, survive." The council's forces landed in formation, advancing with precision and strength. Their intent was clear: take Daniel by force and punish Scifi for protecting him. Daniel's mind raced. He spotted choke points, areas where he could slow them down, and places to use the environment to his advantage. He moved silently alongside Scifi, positioning themselves for the confrontation. The first wave of attackers reached the compound gates. Daniel stepped forward, using quick, calculated strikes to disable their automated equipment, forcing the aliens to advance on foot. Despite his smaller size, his agility and strategy gave him the upper hand. Scifi fought alongside him, her skills honed from years of experience. Together they became a coordinated team. Daniel anticipated movements, predicted attacks, and countered them with intelligence rather than brute force. One group of council enforcers tried to flank them, but Daniel spotted the maneuver and shouted a warning. Scifi blocked one assailant while Daniel disarmed another, their teamwork seamless. "Your people underestimate humans," Daniel said, breathing heavily, dodging a strike. "They think we are weak. They are wrong." Scifi smiled briefly, admiration in her eyes. "I have always known. You prove it now." The battle intensified. More council forces arrived, but Daniel remained calm. Every step, every move was calculated. He led the attackers into narrow corridors, where their numbers became a disadvantage. He set traps using overturned furniture, security doors, and improvised barriers. Despite the chaos, Daniel's focus never wavered. He realized that this fight was more than defense. It was a demonstration. A message that humans, even when outnumbered and underestimated, could survive, adapt, and overcome. Scifi watched him, understanding fully why she had chosen him. He was not just a survivor. He was a symbol of hope, a spark that could inspire others. Finally, the council's lead emissary confronted them in the main hall, flanked by elite guards. He raised his voice, demanding Daniel's surrender. Daniel stepped forward, standing tall despite his exhaustion. "I will not surrender. Not to you, not to anyone who thinks humans are nothing. You see a weak man, but you are wrong. I am strong. I survive, I fight, I am worth saving." The emissary snarled and lunged, but Daniel's reflexes were faster. Using his environment, he dodged the attack, maneuvered behind the alien, and forced him into a trap that immobilized him. The elite guards hesitated, seeing their leader restrained. Scifi seized the moment. With calm precision, she coordinated her forces and Daniel's tactics to push back the remaining council soldiers. Within minutes, the battle was over. The attackers retreated, their forces broken, their arrogance shattered. Daniel dropped to his knees, breathing heavily, his body aching but alive. Scifi approached and placed a hand on his shoulder. You did it, she said softly. Not because of strength alone, but because of your mind, your heart, and your courage. You are a man worth saving, Daniel Hale. Daniel looked up at her, a faint smile crossing his face. For the first time in years, he felt proud, not just for surviving, but for standing, fighting, and proving his worth. Outside, the city slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. People emerged from hiding, whispering about the human who had stood against the council's elite. Daniel's story was he.